Hi, I'm Ethan. I love muzzleloading. Today we're talking with Mike McCoy from the great state of North Carolina about his story in muzzleloading, as well as the muzzleloading community in North Carolina. As of recording here, they've just completed their 2022 North Carolina State Muzzleloading Championship. So we're going to get a little bit of a recap from Mike about that match and the competition and kind of what went into it, and a little bit about muzzleloading competition in general. We're kind of back-to-back muzzleloading competition here, but it is kind of a hot topic. It's something I get a lot of questions about, and Mike is a really passionate ambassador for this sport. I've been talking to him now for quite a while, and it's really nice to sit down and hear a little bit about what drives him to continue to promote muzzleloading in his area and how he's getting active in making sure that muzzleloading continues for another generation.
I'm Mike McCoy, and I too love muzzleloading.
Hey, let's just kind of jump right into it, man. How did you get your start in muzzleloading?
I was a kid. Let's see, the tender age of 13, my folks got my brother and I involved in shooting sports with 4-H. They're like, we're not going to let them just sit around and goof off. Let's see what they can do. So, started off shooting like 22 and shotgun and stuff like that with 4-H. And I remember going to shooting camp outside of Natchez, Mississippi, a little place called Woodville. Oh, there's nothing there.
That's the best.
I can't remember. Well, not when you're like 13 and
right.
Just trying to figure your way out in the world. Anyway, I was supposed to be there shooting 22 rifle. I think it was an NRA camp. I was supposed to be there shooting 22 rifle, and I just absolutely hated 3-position 22 rifle. And it was just tough, and the bugs were out, and it was hot, and it sucked. So I just kind of bailed and found myself at the shotgun range and was excelling there. And then the guy at the shotgun range was like, hey, why don't you go check out that over there? And of course, it's loud and the smoke and it's awesome. And I just kind of found myself on the muzzleloader line shooting way more of these lead balls than I did 22 rounds. I kind of got in trouble a little bit. They're like, you should be down on the 22 line. I'm like, I'm having way more fun up here.
I love that.
That's kind of how it all began. Yeah. That Christmas, my folks got me and my brother I got a muzzleloader and he got a Remington, it was like a youth model 870 pump, and I got a Thompson Center Black Diamond.
Oh man.
And still got it, still in great condition. Stainless steel barrel that works. I put one of those Williams peep sights on it like 2 years ago, and it's a tack driver at 100. Yeah. But so I shot that and placed and medaled first, second place, got invited to the Mossy Oak, Mississippi State Invitational.
Dang.
Yeah. I was a sharp shooting little kid, but they changed the game on me at that shoot. Yeah, it was a 2-day event, and they were like, oh, you can only shoot round ball. And of course me, man, I was shooting those sabos out of it.
Oh, okay.
But I'm ready to rock and roll with this. That was the first time I ever met a 6-bull target.
How'd it feel?
It was one of the biggest letdowns of my life. As a 16-year-old, but still, that was awful. But then we moved ranges and we shot the bottles target, and we shot the little Hafner critters target. The crow and the
it's like a squirrel, groundhog or something.
Yeah, like an otter. Isn't there an otter in there too?
Yeah.
So shot that and did terribly because I never shot that before.
Well, to be fair, that's a tough target even if you have shot it. I mean, the design of that is a little tricky. Or maybe I'm just compensating for my poor skills.
Well, I take crack shots now, but I mean, even then I was taking crack shots at squirrels with a 22 from about, 50 feet away. But, trying to do it with something a half inch around from 50 feet away, it's got a little more pup and recoil. It was tough. It was tough as a child. And, one of those events that kind of made me rethink my whole stance on youth shooting sports, but alas, I prevailed, and here we are, many years later. But I still hate that 6-bull target at 50 yards. That thing
That's a tough
that thing's
one.
awful. Yeah, yeah. Well, look, I had a good day the other day. I shot my first 50-yard six-bull target and scored all 5 shots.
Nice.
Yes. Yes.
See,
It was a good day.
for me, that's like riding a bike. That's how I got started, was those 6-bull targets on the bench line, shooting a big 54 caliber bench gun. So like once I started fooling around, and got into like the bottle target and silhouettes, I was kind of like, whoa, this is weird. But that's neat though. I love hearing about how people get started, and hearing that you got involved, kind of through the 4-H shooting sports, I think is really great. I was just reading today about the national championships for 4-H shooting sports happened earlier this summer, and I'm just really happy to hear that that's continuing to go. I think there's been a lot of things kind of ebb and flow, and I think like the Boy Scouts are a big part of it, although there are some groups that are still really active kind of with the Boy Scouts and shooting sports. I'm glad to hear that 4-H is continuing to kind of hold on to their shooting sports aspect.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, and let's see, I was working the Dixie Deer Classic. It's held the first weekend of March there in Raleigh. And there were a couple of young ladies who stopped by and were like, hey, look, we just got back from the 4-H national event and one of the North Carolina teams won it. And I was like, which one? They were like, 22, look, 22 shotgun. What do you want? What do you want them to win? And they were both muzzleloaders and blackpowder enthusiasts as well. And
good.
Yeah. So, and I mean, these like 18, 19-year-old kids, hey, shooting, enjoying muzzleloading. And I think I tried to convince them to come down, and they were like, well, that's another Rimfire match. And we're going to that one because it's Rimfire.
Right. It's fast.
But, yeah.
Kids these days and their repeating arms.
I tell you, geez, breech loading.
So tell me a little bit about what muzzleloading is like in North Carolina. I'll admit I haven't made my way that far south and east on any muzzleloading mission trips. So I'd love to hear what's going on down there and how you're involved in it.
Oh man, well, obviously we have the state association, the North Carolina Muzzleloading Rifle Association, and we currently held just our state shoot is pretty much the only thing we got going on right now, but we're looking to change that. I'm looking to change that anyway. But I mean, we have some of the legends of black powder. I mean, Jim Chambers is over in the west side of the state.
Mm-hmm.
Right up the road from him is Rice Barrels. We've got Jerry Fisher lives down here. Horn and Fiber. What's his name?
Clinton Byers.
Clinton, yeah, Clinton, his wife, live in Waxhaw, North Carolina. So some really, really, really talented folks. World-class builders. Is it Bivens?
I think it's Blevins.
Who's a rifle builder? Blevins, yeah. I mean, he's just. I mean, they're all just over there in the mountains or in the Piedmont and cranking out some just world-class works. I mean, we've got plenty of craftsmen around, and I'm not saying that no other places in the United States don't have that. I am saying that North Carolina, though, is a special place for that. I mean, we've got 4 different schools of long rifle building, if not more. I mean, during the late 18th century, I mean, there were. I'll have to look at a map real quick. Give me just a second.
North Carolina Schools of Long Rifles, 1765 to 1865.
Yeah, so but poke through that and you'll see. I mean, there were it all came down Pennsylvania, but then you start getting into the Southern Mountain Rifles, and of course, that was pioneered. Kentucky gets all the credit for that, but there was a lot of nifty stuff that happened between the coast of North Carolina and the mountains in the West. And several just county schools of long rifle building. I think there's Guilford. There's a Guilford County. There's the county that Charlotte's in. Anyway, I can't tell you all the ones off the top of my head, but
no, that's okay.
Yeah.
What about like the muzzleloading clubs in North Carolina? Is that pretty active? Where there's some ranges and things, or is it pretty light?
There were a pile of ranges, but in the last 10 years, as the way of most muzzleloading shootings, it's just gone down. I mean, in the last 3 years, we've lost two of the clubs due to either the original landowner, dying, and, the family just can't really deal with the muzzleloading club being there, or, just sands of times, I think the biggest kicker there is if you want to have a muzzleloading club, you need to own the land for the club. If not, then anything happens, especially when you lease the land. I think that's the biggest problem we've been seeing here. But we do have three very active clubs. We've got Cross Creek Rifle and Pistol Club outside of Hope Mills, North Carolina, so just a little outside of Fayetteville. We have the Lafayette Long Rifles, which I'm a member of, and we're about 45 minutes south of Raleigh, maybe a little farther south of Raleigh, a mile south of the Aversboro Battlefield Museum. So Aversboro Battlefield is a big Civil War site, and we're literally a mile south of that. And then there's French Broad Rifles outside of Asheville. And I haven't made it out to the French Broad Club yet, but apparently they have one of the biggest and best woods walks around.
Oh, wow.
One of our old members of my club, who's now a member over there, is like, it's real romantic. You should, you can take your wife up there and have a picnic or something like that.
A little muzzleloading date. I like that.
Right. Hiking up half of a mountain. Sure. Yeah, it'll be great, baby. Come on. Just bring your Kindle. It'll be fine.
So how did you go from, shooting your Thompson Center and the 4-H shooting sports to where you're at now, kind of being really active, at least online, with the Lafayette Long Rifles and the state association? What kind of happened in between there, and what do you like to shoot now, and how did that change over time?
Oh, man. All right. So, I guess in 2014, I picked up one of those Crockett rifles from Traditions.
Oh, yeah.
Because I wanted a squirrel. I wanted to make the switch. I didn't want to hunt squirrel with anything but a muzzleloading rifle. And, hey, that's a great little gun and will eat anything, I'm telling you. So I got one of those, and then I was like, well, I was moving around, digging holes, finding stuff, and just didn't really have the time except for when I went home on the weekends. So wound up moving from where I was working to Georgia. And before I moved there, I picked up a Lyman Great Plains rifle at his pawn shop. Man, it was like $200. And I said,
my gosh.
Yeah, that's what I said. So I wound up trading the guy a 243 I wasn't shooting. And so I picked it up and had a little place to shoot over in Georgia, and just really, really got kind of back into the swing of things as far as, putting lead on target and seeing just how far I could stretch it out, and I just started shooting more, put in my first black powder order as an adult.
That's a milestone.
That's what I said. I had to make sure somebody was there to sign for it when it got dropped off at the house in the explosives package. Yeah. My sister-in-law was like, why is that? Why does that box have explosives on the side, and what's it doing in my house? I was like, just black powder. Come, let's burn some. So from there, as archaeologists do, they eventually find a permanent job with a firm somewhere, and that place just happened to be 20 minutes outside of Raleigh.
Okay.
So I took my black powder purchase and my Lyman Great Plains rifle and wound up there. And then I got on the muzzleloading forum because, hey, they've got a lot of really, really good information on there, and linked up with old Buck Buchanan. And he said, hey, look, we're having a Cold Toes event. It's a 3-day event held at Lafayette Long Rifles at the end of January. Why don't you come down and shoot with us? And I said, all right. So I took my Lyman Great Plains rifle down there with its peep sight on the back and the diopter sight on the front. And the first thing a dude said to me when I got there was, that's not legal to shoot in this competition, right? And I was like, oh man, I got to change the game again.
Getting flashbacks then.
Right. So I wound up changing that at some point, but yeah. The folks at Lafayette were really, pumped to have somebody new there. And it took a whole year before I went back because, life and job, work stuff gets in the way. And I think it was that fall I went there, and one of their members, he's an NSSA shooter, Tom said, why don't you just get an application, go ahead and become, put in for your membership. And I said, all right, the membership application says, hey, this is what we want you to do, read the bylaws, you don't necessarily have to have an 18th century persona. We'd like you to. And we also want you to get a flintlock, be proficient in muzzleloading and flintlock rifle shooting. So that all came to pass, and here I am. It took a year, and I was like 3 flintlocks and a tricorn in. It did not take long for me to kind of go whole hog into that.
You were hooked.
Get involved. Yeah. But getting involved that way and like putting in the work at the club, because we're a participation based club. So like if you don't really show up to work parties and you don't show up to shoots, then we start asking questions like, hey, where have you been?
Right. Yeah.
You signed a paper saying you wanted to be a member of this club.
It takes a lot of work to keep those clubs going.
It does. And the typical sort of 80-20 rule gets it's the same thing all across the board, but got involved doing that, and went to the North Carolina Territorial. It's held in April. Got to go to the state shoot in the fall, and I shot at that one twice now, and things just kind of snowball, and you find yourself doing more online stuff for the clubs, and you get asked to take on a little more responsibility. And luckily I'm not too busy to, take on some of that responsibility. So in essence, I feel like it's kind of giving back for all the fun and the entertainment that I've gotten. Now I can put in a little work and, sort of pay that forward and make sure what we're doing doesn't die. Yeah. I've met a few folks who were like, hey, look, I saw the Facebook page, or hey, I saw your Instagram, or I saw the Lafayette Long Rifles page. Look, I didn't know anything like that was going on. How do I become part of it? And that's really cool to see that kind of come to fruition. Yeah, man. And I haven't been doing it that long. So that's kind of that's what it's all about. That's what you're waiting for when it feels like you're kind of riding into the void sometimes. And every now and then somebody kind of writes back and says, hey, I want to get involved in this. And that you can't beat that feeling, especially when they show up then at some point when they've heard about you and about the event, Yeah, well, I took out a ad in the Muzzle Blast. I don't know if you saw it, but yeah, it's in there. Yeah. So
big vertical ad there.
Yeah, whole third of a page, man.
Heck yeah.
But I guess it was about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I started getting emails from these, and phone calls from these dudes, and they're like, hey, I heard about this. What's the juice? It's working. It's doing something. Yes. Right.
You're kind of sitting at your laptop like Doc Brown,
Kinda. I've got, I have means of communicating, and so I started getting phone calls and messages from all people on the forum, messages on Facebook, and like calls to my phone, like through my. From the number on the Muzzle Blast ad. Yeah. And I was like, wow, well, this is just phenomenal. Of course, I get to report that to like the officers of the state association, and they're like, well, Mr. McCoy, that's good job. Pat on the back. Hell yeah, man, I'm for it. Let's do it. So
I've got to ask. I mean, you've kind of gone from the from your Thompson Center to your Traditions and your Lyman and your other Flintlocks now, getting involved with the Lafayette long rifles there. Recently, though, you've been posting quite a few muzzleloading competition pistols. Can you tell me a little bit about that and how that kind of got into your sphere of interest?
Well, it was the state shoot last year, and I was shooting in between Todd Wenzel and John Bauer. Are you familiar with those names?
I know the names. I don't think I could place a face to them, though.
Well, if you go into any pistol aggregate from the national event, you're going to see John right up at the top of it. So not only do we have legendary like gun builders and stuff, we also have legendary shooters in North Carolina. He's number one or he's number two.
I love that.
For like the last little while. And Todd Wenzel's like winning gold medals on the international team. So,
oh man, that's rad. That's awesome.
Yeah, super cool. And they just make you better shooters when you're shooting up there.
Heck yeah.
Alongside them. You might accidentally surprise yourself. But I turned around one day and John just had this Flintlock pistol out. But the lock was backwards, and it looked like a 1911, and it had the set trigger and the cool stuff, and I was just blown away. I didn't even know they made those things. And he's shooting like a 97 with it. And this because he's dancing around the X-ring.
Right,
like, what are you talking about? Come on, dude. So I saw that and was like, man, I'll get me one of those one day. And, so I guess...
and I'm sure your buddy Buck didn't help you at all with this.
No, man, I'm out $950 from that sucker. You gotta be kidding me. Yeah. So he had I don't know if it's one of your dads or one of your granddads, but he had one of the Yezo pistols in 45 caliber. Mm-hmm. And so that was my first match pistol. And then Buck was like, oh, if you like that one, I have this other one. And he took it to the Dixie Deer Classic, and I was like, oh man, I might have to let's talk about it. Let me shoot it a little bit. And it wound up being the case of get the gun, then talk to your wife about it.
Okay. Yeah.
But it's a match gun. So and I wanted one just because, when I was a musician, I'm still a musician, but when I was a real musician, getting paid to be a musician, having some of the best equipment was real important, because it wouldn't go bad. It wouldn't fail. You wouldn't have to worry about something going awry in the middle of a show. Mm-hmm. So I feel like I kind of took that same approach with these match guns. They're great shooters. Yeah. Real good shooters. Now I can't get my Flint that that Flint pistol is a lightning pistol. I think it's made by Cimarron Arms or Cimarron Gunworks out of Oklahoma. I don't think they're in business anymore, but
no, I don't think they are. And people get confused too, and I do as well, because there's the Cimarron that's making like lever guns now. And they do a great job. Yeah, the single action stuff. Yeah, but they're not the same company that made those match guns, which I'm really sad about.
Right. Well, and I sent him an email. Didn't realize that's what was going on until they were like, we have no clue what you're talking about.
Well, do I have an interesting market opportunity for you?
Right. You want to get into the fancy schmancy world of competition, muzzleloading Flintlock pistols?
Well, that's cool. But, I love hearing about that, because it's just neat. When people kind of find their way to muzzleloading competition pistols, that's kind of like a weird niche of a niche. And there's so much that kind of goes into it. And I actually was able to catch up with Buck some at the CLA show this year and chat some kind of about the 80s and 90s where muzzleloading Flintlock pistol shooting was really big. I mean, it was hard to find a space on a firing line for a match. just about anywhere, it seemed like, from the stories that I've heard. And seeing you get into it has really revitalized it, even for me, of like, oh man, I've got to get these out and start having some fun with this stuff, because it's really fun to share it, because like you said, not a lot of people have seen them, and it's a really neat thing to share.
Well, and I busted one of those out. It's a number of months, I guess it was in May, and I went up to take my NRA basic course, and I took it up there and opened it up, and old Dave Miller was like, "What is this abomination?" I love it, And there are two reactions to that pistol. It's like, that shouldn't exist, or wow, how does it work?
Right.
The lock's backwards. So I've taken to calling it an abomination, but that's interesting. I didn't realize that was a big thing back in the 80s and 90s, I guess what you said.
Oh, you got to talk to Buck about it. I'm going to try to get him on the show to talk about it a little bit more, but he's got some fun stories about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he said he won the national pistol competition one year with I can't remember what he shot in the percussion pistol. It was high score. It was like a 96, like 5 X's.
Yeah.
It's like, that's pretty good shooting, Buck.
Yeah, there for a while you had to be in the upper 90s. If you look back in in the scorebooks, you had to be above 95 to really be in the run for anything, which is kind of crazy to think about.
Right, that's good shooting.
Because for those of you folks at home maybe that haven't been exposed to it, those pistol aggregates are set up with 25 and 50 yard targets. So you might be able to shoot, a mid to low 90s at 25, but shooting in the 90s, let alone the upper 90s at 50 yards, I mean, that is something else with iron sights and a flintlock pistol. Right.
And I can barely get 10 of them suckers to hit on the paper from 25, with that pistol. I know it'll cut a ragged hole. I know it will, but it's all me,
I think
it's all me.
A lot of it's like just what's in between your ears. I mean, there are days where I can go out and, I can get them all, 9, 8 ring. And there are days where I'm hitting the 5 ring. If my head's not in it, it's not going to happen, it's weird to say, but sometimes that's just how it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and Buck will tell you, like, and all of the other good pistol shooters will tell you, it is all mental.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's shutting everything out. It's making sure your elbow and wrist are in the game. It's making sure your head and the rest of your body are in the game. And it's just chilling out, focusing on the sight and cracking the shot off.
Yeah. Kind of letting your body do it for you, is how I kind of grew up thinking about it.
And that is, like, in the last 3 months how I've had to start thinking about it. So.
Flintlock or muzzleloading pistol boot camp for you.
Yeah, it's tough. Yeah, just chill out, man. You let the gun do the work.
Yeah.
No, I'm driving this train. I can't do that. I'm not gonna let it do that. It drives you. But yeah, no, it's a lot of fun though, and it's cool to be surrounded by so many just folks who are involved in it. And I don't know, pick away. I mean, Buck's been a representative since like 1985.
Yeah.
And a couple of the other shooters I'm with have been shooting in SSA since like the early 90s.
Yeah.
International team shooters. You got, we got a lot going on down here in North Carolina. Ethan, you need to come down and we'll just go on a North Carolina tour.
I'm working on it, man. I'm trying to schedule a trip down there. I got to see the Chambers shop. I got to get down there and see that operation, man.
Yeah. Well, I haven't seen it, but
maybe
I'll take a field trip.
Yeah. We'll tag along. So when you're around all of these, kind of, experienced competition shooters, what is that like for you? Is that intimidating, or, are they generally, really helpful and friendly about going through all of this? Because competition can be kind of scary. It can be kind of serious depending on what level you're at, but you've got to start somewhere,
Right. You show up on the line, you got your stuff loaded, you're ready to go, and you crack it off and it's a 6.
It's humbling.
Nobody I've never been in the situation where like, that was pretty terrible, McCoy. Why don't you put it down forever?
Right.
It's never really been in that situation. There's
Good.
always somebody like, hey man, try this. I see you're doing this. Why don't you do this? And eventually you collect those once a day nuggets and start really applying them in your pistol shooting or rifle shooting repertoire, and they kind of add up. There's a cumulative effect to it, I'd say.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a learning process for sure about it.
Absolutely.
This podcast is brought to you by Thor Bullets. Thor Bullets are a premium full-bore muzzleloader bullet designed specifically for modern inline rifles. Thor Bullets do not require plastic sabots or belts to be fired, meaning less cleaning for you between shots. The patented copper base creates an airtight seal, giving you greater distance and accuracy. Thor's unique engineering allows the bullets to retain 95% of their weight upon impact, and the controlled expansion ensures large, easy-to-follow blood trails. Thor bullets are currently available in a 50 caliber version that is sized to your specific bore. Thor is also expanding into a new 45 caliber bullet designed for faster 1 in 24 and 1 in 22 twist inline rifles. For more information on these great bullets, visit www.thorbullets.com. We'd like to thank Thor Bullets for their sponsorship of this podcast. This podcast is brought to you by Muzzleloader Magazine, the publication for traditional black powder shooters. Since 1974, Muzzleloader has been the leading magazine devoted to traditional black powder hunting and shooting. Each issue is jam-packed with articles on hunting, shooting, gunsmithing, do-it-yourself projects, living history, American history, book and product reviews, and much, much more. Muzzleloader Magazine is the best traditional muzzleloading magazine, bar none. I'd like to thank Jason at Muzzleloader Magazine for his continued support of I Love Muzzleloading and the I Love Muzzleloading podcast. I don't care what you're into. If you're interested in muzzleloading, this is the kind of magazine I think you need to check out. I've been a fan of Muzzleloader Magazine even before the sponsorship. I've always been impressed with what Jason has been able to put out with Muzzleloader Magazine, and it really means a lot for him to be supporting I Love Muzzleloading and our efforts over here. Thank you, Muzzleloader Magazine, for your support.
Well, you want to hear about the state shoot?
Yes, please. I want to hear about it so bad, man.
Well, we had 43 registered shooters. They showed up from, Georgia, Florida, South Carolina, North Carolina. I don't know if we had anybody from Virginia or Maryland. Some folks from Tennessee showed up. So, decent crowd. And I mean, it was the best crowd we've had in like the last 4 years. Because for a couple of those years, we were down. There was a hurricane and there was a pandemic, and there were rumors saying this might be the last one if it doesn't do well. But hey, boomtown, we pulled it off, and folks showed up on Thursday to start setting up camp, and shooting began around 9:00 on Friday. And it was a beautiful day on Friday. Low humidity, so your 4F didn't turn into mud in your pan instantly.
Yeah.
So
I imagine that's a problem down where you're at.
It's a huge problem. So it's like, when you hear people saying, "Oh yeah, I prime with 3F," look, there's a reason for that.
Right.
But yeah, and we found that to be the case on Saturday and Sunday, because man, it rained on and off Saturday most of the day, and Sunday morning it was a torrential downpour. I almost gave up on my percussion rifle aggregate because I could not get that plains rifle to go off for 20 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
Of the first aggregate. So I was yanking nipples out and turning the clean out screw and just trying to get it to work. I'm pouring powder here and I'm beating on it there, and finally started working and like got my fifth shot off with like 2 minutes to spare. It was nasty.
Man, that's a rough way to get started.
Yeah. Wasn't excited about it, but
right.
all the campers had a good time. I think we had 7 folks camped out there, 8 folks camped out there. Old rifle Builder John Muzan was out there. A couple of gunsmiths and several shooters from the French Broad Club were out there. Let's see. Saturday evening, Dave Miller convinced me a couple of months ago, hey, who knows about the NSSA down there? I was like, well, we have a couple of NSSA shooters around. Mm-hmm. He said, well, why don't we have a skirmish demonstration? And I said, Dave, I'll see what I can do. So after a little finagling and pulling of strings, it really wasn't that hard. We had 5 shooters show up. Well, 4 shooters and me, and have a successful claybird pigeon board 50-yard demonstration. And
nice.
Had 5 minutes to shoot as many claybirds off a pigeon board as you could. And I think I got 9 shots off through a 3-band infield. That wasn't mine. At 50-yard target, and it was pretty cool. It's pretty cool, and that just generating more interest for the black powder and muzzleloading shooting community.
Yeah,
and I thought that was cool. I was kind of hoping our boy Eddie would show up, but he got busy.
Oh yeah,
he got busy.
That's Eddie for you.
That's all right. We'll get him next year. If you're listening, Eddie.
Rumor is he's picking up a Flintlock, so he's finally coming around to the to the cultured side of muzzleloading, we might say.
It's cultured if you can shoot it at it. I was still a terrible shot with mine, and I've been shooting. I got one of them fancy schmancy Kibler Colonials, I guess about 1.5 years ago, and I am still an awful shot with that.
It takes time.
It does.
My mountain rifle, I'm still pretty rough at. When I'm goofing, I'm also goofing at myself here because there's a lot of work needs done.
I know. That's part of that roller coaster ride. You go on it, you go anyway. But yeah. So 43 shooters. It rained a lot. It was hot and muggy Sunday evening, but it was a real successful shoot. Only problem was anytime I'd ask somebody on the line, like, hey, how you shooting today? They're like, not so good.
So it was across the board. There was something in the water, we'll say.
Absolutely. Something in the rain, something in the humidity. But everybody I'd talked to like, oh man, it was going really good, but that 5th shot was just off the paper. There was one guy I was talking to, he's like, man, I had something happen for the first time ever in my life. So what's that? He's like, none of my shots scored.
Wow.
I said, oh no. I said, brother, that's not good. But even with all that crappy shooting, there were a couple of pretty close aggregate results, like where the medal was determined by a point or 2.
Wow.
So, that led to a bunch of well-intended but well-aimed trash talk. Which, it's fun. It's cool, but
you got to have a little bit, I think, at that level of competition.
Yeah,
in good fun. In good fun.
Absolutely, and we got a lot of that. There were old jokes being brought up from last year. I got the nickname Stitch last year due to an unfortunate tomahawk accident. But,
oh no.
So they remembered me simply because of that. I was like, oh man, come on. I don't need this following me around. So maybe that'll die. But Stitch does it again. It's great. Nice. But yeah, we for that state shoot, we've got a pile of aggregates. I don't know if you saw the aggregate list, but I think we've got some 24 aggregates, everything from like bench rest to black powder cartridge to juniors and seniors matches, smooth bore, skeet, flint percussion pistol and rifle, you name it, Bo, we got it.
Man, I love that. I think part of what can help grow a muzzleloading event like the state shoot that you're talking about is having a variety there. It takes a lot more volunteer help to manage all of that and a lot more organization. But, that sounds like you could shoot all weekend and still not shoot in every aggregate, which I love to hear.
I only shot in 5 aggregates, and Yeah. I mean, I shot 100 rounds out of the pistol and 30 out of the rifle. By the time, I mean, how many relays is that?
Yeah.
It's a pile of them. So I
Yeah.
was worn out by the time lunchtime rolled around on Sunday. I could have shot another aggregate, but I said, no, man, I'm tired. I'm done shooting. I'm going to go over here, pack up camp, and then sit down for an hour or two.
Yeah.
But yeah, had a lot of, it's a really good time. But as far as that is concerned, you want to hear who won it?
Yeah,
won the things.
Yeah, give me a rundown, and if you have the scores there with it, I'd love to hear some of the winning scores just to have an idea.
Let me get up here and pull it up. They're all online at crosscreekrifleandpistolclub.com. So give me just a second. I'll get that up. By the way, big thanks to the fine folks at to Buck and the fine folks at Cross Creek Rifle and Pistol Club. They're the ones that hosted it this year. And they did a phenomenal job of making sure everything was safe and sound. They did a great job of scoring. Everything went off without a hitch. And I couldn't thank them enough, because we wouldn't have had it this year if it wouldn't have been for them.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Yeah. Anyway, let's see. So top score in a Flintlock rifle. I'm not going to give any names, just, in case these are embarrassing scores for anybody
else. Ouch.
But I don't know, so let's see. First place with a 116. So that was, we scored 40 on the 25, 36 on the 50, and 40 on the 100-yard flint target.
And so what is the max score for each target then?
It would be, so it's 5 shots on target, so 50 points. So 116 out of 150. And I mean, 40 points at 100 yards with a flint rifle.
That's impressive.
Yeah. Yeah. And then let's see, there was a 121 for the top score in percussion rifle, 44 at 25, 40 at 50, and 37 at 100. And let's see, 110. Okay, yeah. So we have the North Carolina resident championship. So if you're from North Carolina, you can compete.
Oh, cool.
And we had 6 competitors in that, and the fella won it with 110. I think everybody was shooting flint guns, so really good, pretty good shooting there. And let's see, top score in the unlimited bench match was 136. Top score in flint smoothbore was 105. So
with a flint smoothbore. Wow.
Flint, yes, smooth bore. And I mean, it's not flint smooth rifle. No.
Right.
Yeah. So, I don't. The smoothbore is on my agenda.
Right. It's on the list.
Yeah, of stuff to get into, but I need to start shooting better pistol first.
I like your priorities.
So, it'll get there. Let's see, rifle musket. So that's I think that's a 30. Might be a 30 shot aggregate. I'm not exactly sure. I don't have the aggregate list in front of me.
Oh, that's okay.
But they shot a 186, so that's 2 targets at 100 yards and 1 target 50 yards. Yeah, so I think there was a 64, a 56, and a 66 out at 100 yards. So,
oof.
Yeah, and that was that was a hard fought aggregate. Yeah. And then we get into the percussion pistol, and we're not going to talk about those scores. Well, let's see. Top score was a 258 with 4 X's, 94, 92, and a 72. Yeah, 94 with 3Xs, and that's the 25, 25, and a 50-yard target. Mm-hmm. So that second 25-yard target for those of you at home is a timed fire target. So, yeah, so you shoot your first shot, and your timer starts 5 minutes. So you've got 5 minutes to shoot the rest of your 4 shots, right?
Man, that's tough on pistol.
And then you do it again.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then once you get done with that, you get to shoot at 50 yards just to,
just to boost your morale after the time trials.
Right. So, and then there was an as-issued revolver aggregate. The same person won all the pistol aggregates. That was Todd. He showed up.
Congrats, Todd.
Congratulations, Todd. I was after the award ceremony, I was jangling around because, you boy won a couple of medals,
Oh yeah, you gotta strut your stuff.
So I'm sounding like Fido walking around, and he stopped me and he goes, "Oh, I didn't realize they came in different colors." Man,
ouch.
Come on, Todd. Nah. Get out of here. No, he's a good guy and a damn fine shot. So
yeah, Todd's out there tearing holes in paper and in you, it sounds like. Sheesh.
Yes. And it was the whole weekend. Because I set my stuff down on the 25-yard line and started unloading. He was like, you sure you want to do that today? I'm like, God, come on, man.
That's a classic one, though. You sure you want to do that? Yeah.
Yes. That's a good one. Anyway, yeah. So he shot a 348 in the open revolver aggregate, and yeah.
Man.
Yeah. So that's 4 targets. So that's your slow fire target. That's your rapid fire, your time fire target, which is 10 rounds out of a revolver in 10 minutes. Shoot it, reload it, go from there. And the state rules, you can load 6 in your first cylinder and then reload 4. But with the NMLRA rules, you can, you got to do it with 5. So, and then, and then you shoot the 50-yard target. Oh, well, you shoot the international target, too. Do you know about the international target? You familiar with that one?
No, I don't think I am.
Oh, man. Everyone loves and hates the international target because you get to shoot at it 13 times. The inner bull is the same as the 25-yard. It might be a little bit bigger than your 25-yard target. But the outer bull, instead of scoring 5, or the outer ring, instead of scoring 5, scores 1.
Oh, so great.
Yeah. So what would normally be an 8 is a 7 or a 6.
Oof.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a tough target. And that 10 ring is tiny, and that X ring is even tinier.
Right,
so, I mean, you're looking, I think it might be a quarter-sized X ring on the thing, if that. And yeah, it's a beast of a target. So just because you hit in the black doesn't mean it's good.
You can feel good about it.
Yeah, of course, Todd put 86 up and 2 X's. So,
yeah, classic Todd.
Whatever. Classic Todd. He's going to hear this and come and hunt me down and shoot me in the back accurately at 50 yards.
He's going to put a smiley face in your back or something.
Oh, man, something like that. If he can reload fast enough. Ha, come and get me, Todd. But yeah, no, that open revolver was a hard-fought battle. So me and my shooting buddy Tom, also shooting mentor, we had a side bet going, who's going to shoot the best during this weekend, during the state shoot. We chose the pistoleros. So we shot the open revolver, the flint pistol, and the percussion pistol. And he got out his Muzzle flint, and I got out my lightning flint. And I don't remember. I think he shoots a Yazel percussion pistol in 32 or 36. Anyway, some high class pistols up there. But we, bet a 6-pack. Who's going to win the 6-pack? He won the 6-pack, but he didn't win the revolver. He didn't beat me in the open revolver. So that felt real good. But it was only by 3 points. So
hey, those points count.
They do. It's funny to see that we shot the same on the international target and the 50-yard target, but what we didn't shoot, what I shot on the first 25, he didn't shoot. Yeah. Anyway,
he couldn't catch up.
Yeah, he couldn't do it. The 3 points. So anyway, here's to you, Tom. He won it. So anyway, top Flint score was 238 out of 300. Top Kentucky pistol score was 243 out of 300. We have a ladies championship, and you can shoot either flint or percussion guns there. I think that top score, it's like an 83 something. Anyway, that was a really, really tight aggregate. I mean, the top three positions were determined by 5 points.
Oh, wow. That's tight.
Yeah, real tight. And matter of fact, the lady who took third showed up. She's one of the ladies I was talking about earlier that showed up at the Dixie Deer Classic. But she showed up with her uncle, who's a member of my club, and her name is Sarah, and she's young. She might have been the youngest competitor there. But was like, hey, I said, have you ever shot black powder before? And she's like, oh yeah, I've shot it before. I shot competition in 4-H, and I'm like, oh yeah, I did too. And she wound up taking third, not showing up, not expecting to compete.
Oh, that's great.
Somebody, one of my club members, let her shoot her 45 TC. I don't know. I think it's a Hawken. Let her shoot that gun, and boom, place third in the aggregate. So
that's wonderful.
Yeah. One of those cases of, it is a competition. Do you find the warmth there? Oh yeah, you find it. We were not going to let this lady leave there without shooting in an aggregate. So anyway, a lot of fun. So then we have the hunting aggregate, and the top score was an 88. And was that the one? I think you shoot a crow and you shoot a fox, and there's something else you shoot. A running fox and then like a standing chuck. Anyway, there's that one. We have the buffalo match where you shoot 2 targets at 50 yards and 1 at 100. One of them at 50 yards is offhand, the other is cross sticks, and then the other one you just have to deal with it at 100. Our seniors won the top score with 117. I think he was shooting a flint rifle on that one. Some real good shots out here. Let's see, we have the Robert H. Hunt Memorial Shoot. I couldn't tell you who he was, but that score was a 110. Let's see, the NC State Club Championship, which is fun. That's, if you want to bet on which team in the state is the best, then bet on French Broad. Because they did exceedingly well and schooled us by 20 points in that. So they get to take this big cutout of North Carolina that says NC State Club Champions, and they get a tiny one with a little plaque with the date on it. And they get to put that up forever. And we passed the trophy around, but yeah, part of that was on me because I totally blew that 50-yard 6-ball with a flint rifle. So that one's fun because you get to shoot. Let's see, there are 4 different things you have to shoot. So the first target is a Kentucky pistol at 25 yards. The second target is that damn old 6-ball with a flint gun at 50 yards. And then I think you got to shoot a smoothbore at a buffalo, or is it a regular target? I don't remember. I think it's a smoothbore at a buffalo at 75 yards, either 50 or 75 yards. And then you can shoot a percussion gun at 100 yards. Pick your best 4.
And give it a go.
I could not be counted among them. And unfortunately, I was. So, but we also have it's fun. It leads to some pretty raw feelings for the next year, but
right. But that's, that's kind of part of it. That's what keeps you coming back to try to get better and do more.
Right. Yeah. Yep. It does. So.
You just kind of, you're always hunting that high, of getting them all in that black.
Yeah, getting them all in the white, man. I'll take it. I'll take what I can get out there. But yeah, no. I know this next year I will be practicing way more at 50 yards.
Yeah.
Because that seems to be the target. That's the one that throws the most folks. I mean, based on what I'm looking at and seeing. Yeah. Yep. That's the one. So we also have a tomahawk and a knife throw at the old state event.
There we go.
And your boy took home the gold medal in the tomahawk throw with a whopping score of 4.
Wow. That's a good score for Stitches over here, I think.
Man. Come on. It's too soon, Ethan.
Too soon.
But yeah. Well, you see some of these other national scores and they're throwing up like, what, 16 and 17 points.
It can be real serious.
Splitting the card and it's tricky. And I'm not great. I think this is the first time I've thrown tomahawk since literally when I got my Stitches. And then we went to the knife throw and I didn't win that at all. Another fella stuck it for 5 and that was fun.
That's awesome.
And then our black powder cartridge, the guy won it with a 258 and 3 X rings. And I think there's a 50-yard target, but the other 3 are all at 100 yards.
Okay.
So he won a pound of black powder.
Hey, that's a good prize these days.
Yeah, unobtainium even sometimes. But yeah, so that's like the score wrap up for your North Carolina shoot. Had a pile of in addition to those folks shooting well and or not so well. We had a pile of vendors come out. Of course, Buck's always there with a pile of his rifle and accoutrement. And a guy by the name of Bruce Hamlin from Florida showed up with some really fine Flintlock match rifles.
Ooh.
And by fine, I mean fine. I picked up one and man, I was like, geez, if only I had the discretionary income to get one of these, it would be in my pocket. But he built a takedown Flintlock gun. And, they're not swamp barrels. They're all straight barrels. And this was in 40 or 45. I don't think it was in 40. A barrel just hung out there perfectly and didn't move. It's like I couldn't move the barrel, like regardless of how I tried. And he's got his locks all tuned and polished and puts in a lot of work making these really nice match guns. So if you see old Bruce Hamlin around, check out his stuff. He's from Florida, and I don't know if he goes up to the national matches. I think he does. He might go to the spring one. And of course he didn't go to this one because he was with us, but
right.
Yeah. See old Bruce around, check him out. He's got some quality stuff.
Yeah. I'll have to keep that in mind.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, there was Michael Inger, E-H-I-N-G.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he showed up with some show and tell. Oh, by the way, we have him in North Carolina.
Keep rubbing it in. Yeah.
I'm just saying, dude, come on down, But he brought some show and tell pieces, and one of them, I guess he took it to the CLA show. Did you see that double barrel Flintlock he made? Yeah.
I think I had a picture of it. I shared on Instagram just a little bit ago.
Oh man, yeah. Well, that I got to look at, and I just touched the gun with one finger. I didn't want to breathe on it wrong. This is the first time I'd ever seen like a $40,000 gun in my life.
Right.
It's like, I don't have the time or the credit score to begin thinking about one of those dream guns.
To buy a car worth more than any car I could afford in the next 10 years.
Right. Right. So,
but he does.
Showed up.
Beautiful flint double shotguns are kind of one of his things. And as I was kind of doing some research on him after the CLA show, I mean, he has had pieces go through the big auction houses here that have just gone for some very fair amounts, we'll say. Beautiful work. Yeah.
And they're all scratch built.
Yeah.
Scratch, I mean, one piece of metal. That's your lot. You just get them. That's it. Build his barrels, does that stuff. He had a hammer shotgun there too, and it was just amazing. And it was in a case. Man, gorgeous backlocks on it that he engraved himself. Man, I've never seen two more beautiful guns in person.
Yeah.
It's going to be a while before I come across something like that. Again, I'm sure of it. But yeah, so he was there. Robert Brisson, who was a judge at Kempton. Did you meet him?
I don't think I did.
He's a cool dude. But yeah, he did. I think he judges like horns and bags. But he was there with a collection of his horns and bags. He makes some really nice scrimshaw grade horns in a pile of different styles from like different eras. So he had. He's got a couple of those just like raw pine plug buffalo horns, just some gnarly looking stuff. But he also has this really nice, like applied tip, sort of Rev War style horn with a turned antler tip.
Oh, nice.
Just gorgeous pieces, like just hanging out, you know? Yeah. And, Jerry Fisher showed up too for a little bit. I think he is Jerry Fisher, Carolina artisan. On the Instagram. I'll have to let me double check that real quick. We'll get it right. Let's see. Jerry Fisher, Carolina artisan. And he's a blacksmith and a bag maker. And yeah, if you got your stop pulled up, just Google Jerry _Fisher Carolina _artisan. And he showed up with some really, really fine pieces that he made. And yeah, he's the guy who made the bag that had I don't know if you saw it on the interwebs, but it was a Jaeger bag, and it had like 5 sets of deer dew claws on the back of it.
Oh yeah.
Did you see that?
I think I did.
Yeah. He was there just with a fistful of knives, and that was pretty cool. There are a couple other vendors there too. A guy named Gary from Athens, Georgia showed up. And a guy named Peter Salvano from Moravian Springs here in North Carolina. And they both had a pile of accoutrements and guns and stuff just kind of laid out for sale. It wasn't really a market fair, but,
right. It's nice to have
shooters who had their stuff and wares just hanging out. If you need it, here it is. But yeah, I think I might have convinced a buddy of mine into getting one of Peter's bench rifles.
Ooh.
Yeah, it had 2 barrels, so you could compete in the unlimited and the light bench.
Ah, clever.
Yeah, that was another one of the cases of get the gun and call the wife.
Okay.
Yeah, so why don't you get it for your retirement gun? You're going to need one.
You're right.
Yeah, shit, yeah. So, yeah, well, those are the vendors that were there, I
always like that because at a muzzleloading competition, you can go and shoot, and then you can kind of unwind a little bit and see what folks are making. Because regardless of if you've seen that person and at an event 2 weeks ago, usually they're going to have something else there that you haven't seen before to kind of just brighten things up a little bit for you to kind of see what else is out there.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And that's, I haven't been to too many events. Honestly, this is the most like black powder vendors I've seen in one spot, at any given point, cause again, I really am just now getting into the competition, shooting, but I've jumped in with both feet real hard.
Good.
Real hard.
I love to hear that.
Yeah, me too.
So what was it that kind of pulled you back into it? Just getting involved with the club, or was there something else?
I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed shooting when I was a kid. I mean, let's see. I think I got signed up to be a 4-H muzzleloading instructor. I was like a senior in high school, and they were like, "Hey, do you want to be a muzzleloading instructor?" Of course, in my county, I was like the only one shooting muzzleloaders. So,
right.
And it was my last year to shoot it. But, I went and, that was the first time I'd heard about the NMLRA. I can't remember the guy who was there. I think he's gone now. But he said, you may, if you're interested, join the National Muzzleloading Rifle Association and come hang out with us in friendship. And I was like, what are you talking about? He was like, "Oh, it's a lot of fun." Sometimes we'll have night shoots, and I'm like, "Night shoots? What do you mean?" He's like, "Yeah, we'll set a candle up at 50 yards, and try to shoot out the flame." And I was like, "You've got to be kidding me! This is phenomenal. This is a thing that happened." So that's just sort of stuck in the back of my mind. Ever ever since I heard about it, and it's like, that's something I want to do. And now that I have adult grown up money,
right,
and time to do it.
Yeah, you can kind of get back into it.
Yeah. So, yeah, after going to the Dixie Deer Classic, Buck was, he said, Mike, why don't you, I'm going to get you this application, and why don't you sign up to become a field rep? You're enthusiastic enough about it. And I'm like, Buck, let me go home and talk to my wife. Come on. So she was very encouraging and said, look, if you're going to do this, I mean, I think you're qualified. So I applied for that, and got a phone call from Lonnie not too long after that saying, hey man, you're in.
Awesome.
So I don't know if I'm the youngest field rep, but I'm certainly one of the newest.
Yeah.
For North Carolina. So
that's great.
And yeah.
Lonnie's a great guy. He's doing some great stuff with that program, getting muzzleloading out and getting the word out. I'm full support of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one of the things he and I talked about, he's like, look, Mike, one of the things I want to see the field reps becoming NRA instructors.
Oh, okay.
And I said, well, it's funny you should mention that, Lonnie, because my boy Dave Miller in North Carolina is got a club down here where to be a member of the charter club, you have to be an instructor. And, so I signed up to be an instructor too, and went through that course. And I know you and him have had a conversation about that, but what he's doing down there is really neat. Just kind of an abridged version for the listeners is he's getting with his charter club, he's training instructors and then bringing in Boy Scout groups and scout groups and things to come and shoot muzzleloaders through the weekend and learn about marksmanship, in a safe and controlled environment, but get them exposed to firearms, specifically muzzleloaders, where they otherwise might not have been, until they became adults and might have got interested in it on their own. Might have gotten into it if they weren't shooting those plastic toys for city boys already. You know what I'm saying? Because, in years ago, and I was talking with an old scout earlier, or this past weekend. They said years ago there was a muzzleloading merit badge, but now you shoot the rifle badge.
Yeah.
And that's it. You can shoot muzzleloader for your rifle merit badge, but there's no muzzleloader merit badge anymore. Yeah. Yeah. You're also not allowed to shoot flintlocks, but that's neither here nor there.
Right. Yeah. That's a topic for another day.
Yeah. I'm not trying to.
No, I just don't want to get activated here.
Oh yeah. Right. But yeah, so, signed up with him to become an NRA instructor, and a fellow by the name of Mark Belli came down and taught our instructor course, and he's phenomenal. He's been a camp counselor and instructor for years and was like up in the top in cahoots with folks with the NRA. He was one of the guys who got the Boy Scouts pistol club or a pistol merit badge, like official.
Oh, okay.
So he came down and taught our instructor course. We all had a blast, of course. And so, more whole hog there. And of course, the most recent development is I'm now the secretary of the state association. So toot toot, here we go.
That's great, man. I really appreciate you. I mean, not only getting involved in the competition side of it, but getting and becoming so active in your local clubs and bringing more people in. I mean, just your Instagram alone, every time that you post something, there's more people interested in something. And the fact that you're taking that kind of online reach that you're building and working on, and you're taking that enthusiasm then into your local clubs and supporting them is just wonderful, because those clubs have been around forever, as far as like contemporary muzzleloading goes. And like you talked about earlier, they kind of ebb and flow, and it's always nice to hear about some new blood getting in there that's passionate about it to help those clubs continue.
Right. And, there's a lot of blood out there who are just as enthusiastic. I've talked with a couple of folks, one in particular in South Carolina. He's like, man, look, I don't care what I have to do. Like, sign me up for this instructor course stuff, because I want to get involved in, making sure these kids in the Boy Scouts know what they're doing. And I was like, well, more importantly, like, we're just trying to promote muzzleloader. And he was like, that's what I'm trying to do. So,
That's so great.
There are folks who are really excited. I know, hopefully in the next little bit, we'll be hosting a basic course in and around. And when that comes through, I'll get you some dates and details.
Oh, please do.
But we'll be hosting a basic course in order to get people in that instructor pipeline to then draw more folks in. But
okay,
you don't have to be in your late 20s or mid 30s to become passionate about muzzleloading. I mean, you could be 60 or 70,
yeah,
and a new shooter to the black powder sport, and still get involved. I mean, granted, I think a lot of folks focus on new shooters, like, kids and stuff,
yeah,
which is great, and fine, but I think we neglect the older shooters who, they'll show up to a match or whatever, and kind of hang around the wings and stuff, and you start a conversation with them and talk to them, and they're like, oh, well, this is something I could be interested in, but I've got all these other hobbies and stuff. And, well, look, come on back, next month, and we'll put a flintlock in your hands, and we'll put a big honking pistol target out at 25 yards for you to shoot at and hit. And,
you'll put all those other hobbies in a closet and underneath your bed, pack them away, and then invest in muzzleloaders.
Right. Yes. That Daniel Defense thing you keep talking about running and gunning with. Haha.
No. Sell that. Buy nice muzzleloaders.
Right. Get you a good kit, man. This thing snapped together like a Lego set.
Oh man.
But yeah. I think it is important moving forward in the muzzleloading that we don't forget about those folks, who may or may not be a little bit older, who've just seen and heard about it, but they're holdovers from the 70s and 80s, where, like, great Uncle Bubba Jeans, he shot that black powder gun and it stank and it blew up one time.
Yeah.
I ain't shooting that thing, it'll blow up. So
yeah,
I don't know if that's been your experience, but anytime I go back sometimes to Mississippi, they're like, how you actually shoot that? I'm like, yes, yeah, I do.
There's a lot of mystery, and there's a lot of intrigue around them. I mean, Jeremiah Johnson was really good because it got a lot of people interested in muzzleloading, and with it, the Thompson Center Hawkins. But I think it's a symptom of that era, where there just wasn't a lot of information. You had to really go seek it out, and you had to be really purposeful about finding that information. And for something like muzzleloading in a world of, having that rebirth in a world of centerfire cartridges, that could be really difficult. And I think we're still kind of working our way through that. But I think now, in a combination of the internet and the clubs and these events that are still going on, we can kind of start to demystify that a little bit and make it, it's becoming more welcoming, I think, for people to get away from great Uncle Bubba Jeans, as you.
Great Uncle Bubba Jeans exploding revolvers. Yeah.
Chain fired and scared the cows and.
Not interested. Not interested in that.
I'm not either. We can agree there.
But yeah, no, it's I don't know. It's a quality over quantity thing, you know. And one fellow, let's see, this was at a Cross Creek match. I guess it was a couple of months ago. But he was kind of hanging out, kind of in the back, and I think he wound up competing. He was like, how are you going to run and gun with that thing? I was like, oh, man, well, we sit back here, we load on the bench, and we walk up there, and we fire. And then we do it again.
It's very relaxed.
Yeah. Well, I think he competed this in the state shoot. So, you hang around long enough, and, you crack off a couple of shots, and then you crack off a hunting load just to see what it's all about. And, And then you just start cheesing, and it's all downhill from there.
Well, man, not to cut us short, but where can people find you and what you're doing, as well as the club that you're involved with and the state association that you're involved with, in case they want to follow what you guys are doing or get involved, get boots on the ground, and show up to a shoot?
Right. Well, the North Carolina State Muzzleloading Rifle Association, we have a Facebook page, and you can look up North Carolina State Muzzleloading, all one word, Rifle Association. Versus muzzle space loading. Anyway, that was an ordeal. So North Carolina State Muzzleloading Rifle Association has a Facebook. We also have an email, and you can get a hold of us at nc.st.muzzleloaders@gmail.com. You should be able to get a hold of us that way. I'm running the Facebook page, so shoot me a message on there. And shoot us an email. You can get a hold of me directly at blackpowdermccoy@gmail.com. Or check out my Instagram at RickyMac76. Check out RickyMac76. And
you'll see the banana shirt in his profile picture.
That's how you'll know. Well, look, I was at... I think I was at the Territorial, and some fella showed up, and he was like, "You're RM, right?" And I said, "Yes." "How'd you know?" He was like, "Your shirt." I was like, "Yeah." It's working. So there's that. And if you want to check out my club, Lafayette Long Rifles is the name of my club. We're just outside of Dunn, Dunn, North Carolina. We moved there from Fuquay Varina at the beginning of the year because the landowner wanted to sell. And so we've had to start from scratch, but we're back in operation. And we're back having our monthly shoots. Let me see. And you can get us at lafayette.longrifles@gmail.com. You can find us there, or look us up on Facebook, Lafayette Long Rifles. From rabble such as this, rise a people who defy kings.
Ah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
I love that. And I'll have links in the show notes for this episode to all of what Mike just mentioned there, so that we have, so you can just click on it. You don't have to search for it, but in case you're listening and you have a great memory, you can pull up that stuff, but we'll make it easy for you too in the show notes and the description for this episode.
Cool. Before I get off of here, man, I got a couple of acknowledgments. I want to thank.
Please do.
If we do that, do we do that on here?
Heck yeah,
do we
man!
do that on the internet.
I love acknowledging people.
All right. Well, first of all, I'd like to shout out a big thanks to Buck Buchanan and all the folks at Cross Creek Rifle and Pistol Club for hosting the state shoot. Y'all did a great job. Let's do it again. I also want to thank folks from my club, Lafayette Long Rifles, for running the concession stand there at the state shoot. We sold hot dogs, drinks, and concessions all weekend. So thank y'all for coming and volunteering. I was either busy shooting or getting saturated from all the rain. So thanks y'all.
Wringing out your shirt.
Yeah. A shout out to my boy Darren at muzzleloaders.com. I don't know if you saw, but we had a raffle where we raffled off a smoothbore, and then we pulled a name for a bag of goodies that muzzleloaders.com sent. They sent us a little one of their duffel bags, and it had like a cleaning rod and patches and all the stuff you need for 50 caliber care and maintenance. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Thanks, Darren. Yeah, y'all didn't have to do that, but you did, and we appreciate it. And big thanks to all the vendors and everyone who came out to enjoy our sport and the camaraderie that surrounds this. Seems like everybody had a good time, and we'll do it again next year.
That's wonderful. Do you have a date set for next year yet?
It'll be in September.
Okay.
I know that.
Hey, that counts.
But as far as that's concerned, we should have a date set in stone here in the next, probably next 3 or 4 months. So just keep your ears on and keep your eyes out and link up with us on the Facebook or the email or any electronic means. And
make it happen.
I look forward to hearing from all you new folks out there in Radio Land.
I'd like to thank Mr. McCoy once again for coming onto the show and sharing his passion about muzzleloading. We talked a little bit after the show just about the different ways that you can promote muzzleloading. And it's really one of the reasons I wanted to have him on here today to talk about how he is promoting muzzleloading in his area. Like we talked about, these clubs and muzzleloading clubs, they can sadly kind of be a dying breed out there as land changes hands through kind of a generational shift that we're going through. But these muzzleloading clubs have really been the backbone of this sport since the beginning of the cartridge era. Really, the muzzleloading clubs all over the country held on to muzzleloading and kind of brought muzzleloading back to life after everybody, by and large, had converted into smokeless and cartridge rifles. And seeing his passion here, seeing Mike's passion about his local club and his state association, I feel really positive about the future of muzzleloading, especially in North Carolina here. I hope that you can kind of get some ideas from what Mike is talking about in this episode and maybe bring some of that to your local club or your state even, and getting something going to bring some people together. I think as much as we enjoy, and I enjoy making the videos and the podcasts and things, I really want to encourage you to get out there and find some folks out there, find some other muzzleloading enthusiasts in your area. Start doing this in person. Start burning some powder, start using your gear, and start enjoying it. You're going to connect with people in your community, which I think is important, really almost now more than ever, just as we kind of go through some cultural shifts here. I think it's really important to get out and find kind of your tribe, so to speak, of people out there that are interested in what you're interested in. And muzzleloading is a great gateway to find some incredible friends, as Mike has been talking about here. So thank you, Mike. Thank you for sharing your passion. Please follow Ricky Mac or RMMac76 on Instagram. You're going to get just about a weekly dose of muzzleloading enthusiasm, which I think is really great to hear. And you're going to get exposed to a little bit of what muzzleloading is like in the North Carolina region. Really can't say that enough, how much I support what Mike is doing here, and I hope to see it continue across the country. People have been doing this for years, for their entire lives, and Mike is just another step, another link in that chain to keep all this going. But he's doing a great job, and really hope you enjoyed this episode. It was a lot of fun to record, and as usual, kind of gets me inspired to get back out there and keep all this going. It's a lot of fun to do this, but it is a lot of work. But talking with folks like Mike really makes it worth it, and can't thank him enough. Got a couple events coming up this fall, and I'm going to try to be at. The first is the 5 Medals at the Trace event. This is in northern Indiana. It's really not too far from where I call home here, but it's a nice, small, fairly personal living history event where you can go and learn and shop. Looking to spend the first Saturday there hanging out with everybody and catching up a little bit. Also, the Fort Valonia Days, they're having their annual Over the Log or chunk shooting match. Looking forward to being there for that shoot to kind of film and chat with some chunk gun enthusiasts. Really fun niche area of muzzleloading competition. We'll talk about a little bit more later this year, but if you're interested in competitive muzzleloading or doing something a little bit different with your muzzleloader, I encourage you to check out some of the over the log shooting. As always, we'll have links to everything discussed in this episode at ilovemuzzleloading.com with the blog post that goes along with this episode. I'm also going to have a lot of pictures there from the North Carolina State Championship, as well as some examples of the pistols that Mike was talking about in this episode. Once again, I'm Ethan. I love muzzleloading. Thank you so much for listening. We'll catch you next time.